Imagine a state. In this state, children are examined the moment they are born. Those who appear weak are left on a mountainside. Those who are strong belong to the state. At the age of 7, they are torn from their families, placed in barracks, raised with hunger, cold, and pain. At 18, the real training begins. They live in the barracks until the age of 30. They can be sent to war until the age of 60. Women run, wrestle, and lift weights just like men, because strong mothers give birth to strong soldiers. This is not a dystopian novel. This is the reality of Sparta, and this system functioned for approximately 500 years. So how? Why? And why did it ultimately collapse? Today we tell the full story of one of history's most fascinating, most debated, and least understood state systems. This is Dark Past Stories TV, the history they never told you. First, let us understand, how did Sparta come to exist? Between around 900 and 800 before the Common Era, the Dorian tribes settled in southern Greece. They came to rest in the fertile Eurotas Valley in the center of the Peloponnese Peninsula, surrounded by mountains. A people already lived in this region, the Helots. The Dorian tribes conquered this people and enslaved them. And here lies Sparta's true secret. The Helots vastly outnumbered the Spartans. Some estimates suggest there were between 7 and 20 Helots for every Spartan citizen. This means Sparta sat at all times on top of a massive enslaved population that could rise up at any moment. This reality explains everything. Why was Sparta such a militarized state? Because it had to survive, not against enemies from outside, but against the threat from within. Every Spartan citizen had to be ready at any moment to suppress a potential uprising. This necessity transformed over time into a culture, an ideology, an identity. Sparta did not exist to fight. It was forced to fight in order to exist. Around 800 before the Common Era, Sparta's legendary lawgiver Lycurgus stepped onto the stage. Was Lycurgus a real person or a legend? Historians still debate it, but the reforms attributed to his name were real, and they transformed Sparta to its core. Lycurgus first changed the economy. He banned gold and silver currency. In their place, heavy iron bars began to be used as money. This decision cut off trade, because iron bars were extremely difficult to transport. Luxury imports became almost impossible. Why? Because wealth was dangerous in Sparta. Wealthy citizens avoided military service. Luxurious living broke down discipline. Trade drew the mind away from war. Then he redistributed the land. Each Spartan citizen was given an equal-sized plot. Helots worked these plots and gave a portion of the produce to the owner. This arrangement freed Spartan men completely from agricultural work. Now they had only one job: to fight. Then he changed the eating arrangement. Communal dining halls were established, the syssitia. Every Spartan man was required to eat one meal per day in these communal halls. Eating at home with one's family was a display of status and was therefore banned. The communal table symbolized equality. The rich and the poor ate at the same table, eating the same food. And that food was deliberately bad. Black broth, a mixture of pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. An Athenian once tasted this broth and said, "Now I understand why Spartans don't fear death. Death is better than this life." In Sparta, life began before birth. Pregnant women continued to exercise physically. They ran, wrestled, played sport, because it was believed that strong mothers gave birth to strong babies. When a baby came into the world, the first examination was not made by the father. Spartan officials, a council of elder men, examined the baby. The evaluation criteria were simple. Is it strong? Is it healthy? Does it have any defect? Strong and healthy babies were allowed to live. Babies who appeared weak, disabled, or sickly were taken to a place called the Apothetai, a cliff at the foot of Mount Taygetos, and left there. This practice seems barbaric to us today, and it was, but for Sparta, it made sense. A weak soldier in battle endangered not only himself, but everyone beside him. The logic of the system was merciless, but consistent. Babies who survived grew up with their mothers until the age of 7. Even during this period, education had already begun. Spartan mothers were preparing their children against pain, fear, and strangers. There is a story that passed into history. A Spartan mother, whose son was afraid of the dark, sent him outside at night and said, "Go, who will see you in the darkness?" Spartan mothers raised their children not with tenderness, but with strength. 7 years old, the turning point. That morning, mothers left their sons at the gate. The children were taken into the barracks, and they never came home again. This system was known as the agoge. The word means leading away or upbringing. In the agoge, children lived in groups. At the head of each group was an older youth, the Irene. This person was both teacher and commander and judge. The first year was the hardest. Food was deliberately insufficient. The children were hungry, and they were encouraged to steal food to satisfy their hunger. This sounds strange, doesn't it? A state teaching its children to steal? Yes, but the message here was not theft. The message was, use every means to survive. Be cunning, be fast, be clever, and most importantly, don't get caught, because a spy caught in war was worthless. A spy who was never caught was priceless. In the agoge, there were no shoes. In the heat of summer, in the snow of winter, they walked barefoot. The soles of their feet grew thick and resistant to pain. There were no beds. They made their own beds from reeds. They gathered reeds from the banks of the Eurotas River, by hand, without a knife. Clothing was kept to a minimum. Once a year, they received new clothing, a single cloak, the same cloak in the summer heat and the winter cold. Sleep was irregular. They could be woken at midnight to sing marching songs, exercise, or run. Physical training was relentless. Running, wrestling, discus throwing, javelin throwing, swimming. But not only the body, the mind was also trained. Spartans were famous for speaking little. The word laconic comes from here, from Laconia, the region where Sparta was located. Speaking briefly but meaningfully was considered a virtue. Music was also taught, war marching songs, religious hymns. Sparta was the only army in history that marched into battle to the sound of a flute. And at the age of 12, a practice began, the cryptia. The cryptia was the darkest Spartan tradition. Selected young Spartans were sent into the mountains unarmed. Their mission, to survive and to hunt helots. Yes, to hunt helots. These young men who descended on villages in the darkness of night killed helots, particularly those who appeared strong and dangerous. This both kept the helot population under control and gave the young men real killing experience. The cryptia is one of the most disturbing practices in modern history, but for Sparta it was functional. A soldier who had never fought, never seen blood, would be useless in real war. At 18, the first phase of the agoge ended. The young Spartan now moved on to full-time military training. The most successful young men were chosen and placed into a special group. This group would eventually form the core of Sparta's most elite unit, the Royal Guard of 300. Yes, those 300 who fought at Thermopylae. Sparta's least told secret is its women. In the ancient world, women sat at home and wove. In Athens, a woman's very appearance in public was restricted. In Sparta, the picture was completely different. Spartan girls also received education, not as harsh as the agoge, but physically extremely demanding. Running, wrestling, discus throwing, javelin throwing, even nude athletics. Why? Because Spartans knew this: a weak mother gives birth to weak children. Strong, healthy, resilient women give birth to strong soldiers. This was entirely pragmatic, not romantic, not ideological, pure military calculation. But the results were extraordinary. Spartan women could own property. They could conduct trade. While their husbands were at war, they managed the home, the farm, the business. By some estimates, 40% of the land in Sparta was in the hands of women. This was an unparalleled figure in the ancient world. There is a famous story. An Athenian woman asked the Spartan queen, "Why is it that you Spartan women are the only ones who rule your men?" The queen answers, "Because we are the only women who give birth to real men." And the famous words a Spartan mother said to her son leaving for war, "Come back with your shield, or on it. Return victorious or return dead. Do not surrender. Do not flee." These words are not the voice of a mother's tenderness. They are the voice of a war state. 480 before the Common Era. Persian Emperor Xerxes was advancing on Greece with a massive army. The Greek city-states tried to unite, but most chose to surrender. Sparta thought differently. Thermopylae, a narrow pass, mountains on one side, the sea on the other. And without passing through this pass, entering the interior of Greece was impossible. King Leonidas set out to hold this pass with 300 hand-picked Spartans. But here, let us state an important truth. Leonidas did not bring only 300 Spartans with him. Approximately 7,000 Greek soldiers were also present. For 3 days, the Persian army could not breach the pass. Countless attacks were repelled. On the morning of the 4th day, a traitor emerged. A Greek named Ephialtes showed the Persians the mountain path. Xerxes' army began an encircling maneuver. Leonidas saw the situation, and he ordered the main army to retreat. He himself remained at the pass with his 300 Spartans. Why? Because for a Spartan, retreat was worse than death. And because someone had to hold that pass to buy time for the retreating Greek army. The final battle was bloody. The 300 Spartans fought against wave after wave of the Persian army. When their spears broke, they fought with their swords. When their swords broke, they fought with their hands, with their teeth, and they all died. But this death was not in vain. The Greek army retreated, the struggle continued, and in the end, Greece defeated the Persians. Thermopylae was not a victory, it was a sacrifice, and that sacrifice changed the fate of Western civilization. So, outside of war, what kind of place was Sparta? To understand life there, we first need to know this. Being a citizen in Sparta was a very special status. There were 3 classes. First class, the Spartiates, full citizens. Spartans who had passed through the agoge and completed their military training. These were at the very top of society. They did not work, they did not trade, they only fought. Second class, the perioikoi, those who lived around. They were free people but not full citizens. Third class, the helots, the slaves. All the agricultural work was done by them. So what did Spartans do in their free time? Sport, constant sport. Wrestling, running, discus throwing. The body never rested. Music, war marching songs, religious hymns. Hunting, both recreation and training. Religious ceremonies. Sparta was an extremely devout society. Apollo, Artemis, Zeus were worshipped. Before battle, omens were always consulted. This is why the Spartans were late to Thermopylae. At that time, the Carnea festival was taking place, and interrupting a religious ceremony was not possible. 371 before the Common Era, the Battle of Leuctra. Sparta was defeated by Thebes in this battle, and this defeat was the beginning of the empire's collapse. The Theban commander, Epaminondas, had developed a new tactic, the oblique order. By making one wing of the army far stronger, he crushed the enemy's strongest point, the wing where the Spartans were. The Spartans did not see this tactic coming because they were not accustomed to seeing it. For centuries, no one had defeated the Spartans head-on. At Leuctra, 400 Spartiates lost their lives. This was a massive loss, because at that time the total number of Spartiates was only a few thousand. Sparta never recovered its former power. But the true cause of the collapse was not only military. Population crisis. The agoge was an extremely demanding system. Many families avoided having children. The number of Spartiates decreased with every passing generation. Economic collapse. A society that did not trade with the outside world, did not farm, only fought, was not sustainable. Corruption. Over time, wealth inequality grew. Some Spartans lost their land, and perhaps most importantly, the world had changed. Military technology had changed. Battle tactics had changed, but Sparta had not. Everything that refuses to change eventually ends. Why is Sparta still so fascinating today? Because Sparta was a contradiction. It fought for freedom, but was built on slavery within. It championed equality, but built an unequal system. It glorified heroism, but that heroism was often built on oppressing its own people. And yet the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae are still remembered today. Films are made, books are written, legends are told. Why? Because human nature admires sacrifice. To keep fighting while knowing you will lose, this is a universal value. Sparta's military system inspired the training programs of many nations. In modern special forces training, commando schools, and leadership programs, the traces of Sparta can be seen. The word Spartan is used today in many of the world's languages to mean resilient, tough, rejecting luxury. And perhaps the most fascinating legacy is this. The Agoge systems showed how resilient a human being can be. Physical limits are far wider than we imagine. Mental toughness can be learned. Pain can be adapted to. This message is still relevant today. Sparta existed for approximately 1,000 years. It rose to its peak, fell, recovered, and in the end it dissolved into history. Today, in the place where the city of Sparta once stood, there is a small Greek town. It is still called Sparta, but no trace of that ancient power remains. Because Sparta did not write, it left no works of art, it erected no statues, it produced no philosophy. Athens gave us Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. It gave us the Parthenon. It gave us democracy. Sparta gave us only a story, but that story has lived for 2,500 years, and it continues to live. Perhaps the greatest legacy is this: even if you do not write, even if you leave no works behind, if you live with enough strength, history cannot forget you. This is Dark Past Stories TV, the history they never told you.